Chapter 11, Section 4 in the 8th grade workbook is entitled Solving Inequalities by Multiplying or Dividing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top part here. In all of these, we are to solve the inequality and then graph. We're going to go ahead and work down this left column, 1, 3, 5, and 7 here. As you can see in all of these, the variable is on the left side, which is good because in any equation or inequality, that's exactly our first step, is to get that variable on the left side. So they've already taken care of that step for us. So if we look at number 1, we've got variable m on the left, that's good. And numbers on the right, 4 is on the right, that's a good thing as well. So we've just got to look at moving that dividing by -5. Well, remember, we always do the opposite when I want to get rid of something. In this case, that's me moving all the numbers over to the right side. I want that -5 to join the 4 that's already over there. So again, I'm going to multiply both sides by -5 here because that's how I'm going to solve the inequality. And this divide by -5, multiply by -5 cancels each other out. And here I've got 4 times -5, which is going to change it into -20. Now I want you to notice I have not written the inequality sign back in yet because there's that one other little rule which says when we multiply or divide by a negative, it flips the direction of the inequality sign. So I can't now go write less than or equal to back in because I multiplied by -5. I'm going to need to go ahead and write greater than or equal to back in. And that'll get me to my graphing step here. As far as my graphing step goes here, the dot on the number line goes on the number that's in the inequality, -20. It's a closed dot because it's one of the ones that has the line underneath it. And then I'm going to do some shading here. The shading matches the same way that the inequality sign points when the variable is shown on the left side. It's saying the number's bigger than -20. Well, those are going to be numbers towards positive here. As I get closer to positive, we know positives are bigger than negatives. So that's going to force me, in either case, however I want to look at it, to shade to the right. And there's the solution for m is greater than or equal to -20. Number 3 is 7p is greater than or equal to 49. Keep the variable on the left, numbers on the right. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7 here. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with p is greater than or equal to 7. No other little tricks here, nothing else to remember. It's just a matter of me graphing at this point. Closed dot on 7, which is the number in my question. Shading is going to point me in the direction the inequality sign points. Numbers that are bigger than or equal to 7 is what the inequality says. Well, those are numbers like 8, 9, 10, and 11, which in either way then forces me to shade from the dot to the right. Number 5, we've got r over 3 with a negative thrown in front of that. So I'm going to throw that negative on the bottom, -3, less than or equal to 15. So again, keep the variable on the left and numbers to the right. So I want to undo this dividing by -3. And I'm going to do that by multiplying both sides by -3. And so those cancel out and give me r. And here I've got 15 and -3, which is -45. Now this is another one, like in this case, multiplied by a negative number. I have to flip the direction of the inequality sign. So it's not going to be less than or equal to that I'm going to write in my answer. It's actually going to end up being greater than or equal to. So I've got r is greater than or equal to 45. Closed dot on 45. Shading is going to point me towards the right. I'm trying to find the numbers that are bigger than -45, -44, -43, -42 are bigger than -45. Remember, again, when we're talking about negatives, when we get closer to 0, that's where I'll find my larger numbers. -6t is less than -24 here. So again, variable on the left, numbers on the right. So I got to get the -6 out of the way here. So I'm going to undo this multiplying by -6 by dividing across by -6 here. This -24 divided by -6 is going to change into +4. It's still going to be t, but again, I divided by a negative, so that's going to flip the sign around. It's going to be t is greater than 4. So that's an open dot on 4 with shading going to the right. We know the numbers that are bigger than 4 are numbers like 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, let's try number 9. On a snorkeling trip, Antonia drove at least 7 times as deep as Lucy did. Key piece of information because we have to write the inequality here. 7 times as deep. We don't know how deep that is, so it's going to be x If Antonia dove 35 feet below the ocean's surface, what was the deepest that Lucy dove? So if they're saying it's the deepest she could have gone, then that means the furthest down she would have gone is 35, so it's going to be less than or equal to 35. Solve the inequality. So we're going to do the same thing we just did in 1 through 7, we just don't have to do a number line graph. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7 here, and x is going to be less than or equal to 5. So the deepest she dove would have been 5 feet.